Ava had always felt like an outsider in her own family. Her stepmother, Regina, and stepsiblings, Ethan and Lily, made sure she knew she wasn't part of their inner circle. They constantly belittled her, making her feel worthless. But Ava's life took a dramatic turn when Regina and her father arranged for her to marry a man named Julian. They claimed he was poor and from a lower social class, and that Ava was lucky to have him. Ava was devastated, but her father's refusal to intervene left her with no choice. The wedding day arrived, and Ava went through the motions, feeling like a pawn in her family's game. Julian, however, seemed kind and genuine, and Ava couldn't help but feel a spark of attraction towards him. After the wedding, Ava and Julian moved into a small apartment, and Regina and her children would often mock Ava for marrying a poor man. But what they didn't know was that Julian was not who he seemed. He was, in fact, a wealthy businessman who had made his fortune through savvy investments. As Ava and Julian settled into their new life together, Ava began to notice strange inconsistencies in Julian's behavior. He would often receive mysterious phone calls and disappear for hours at a time, only to return with a vague explanation. Ava's curiosity was piqued, and she began to investigate Julian's past. She discovered that he owned several properties around the world and had a vast portfolio of investments. She was stunned, realizing that her husband was not the poor man her family had thought him to be. As the truth began to sink in, Ava felt a sense of vindication. She realized that her family's cruelty had ultimately led to her good fortune. Julian, sensing Ava's confusion, sat her down and explained everything. He told her about his past, about how he had made his fortune, and about why he had kept it a secret. Ava listened, entranced, as Julian's story unfolded. She was amazed by his intelligence, his business acumen, and his kind heart. As she looked at him, she realized that she had fallen deeply in love with him. Meanwhile, Regina and her children were struggling to make ends meet. Ethan had lost his job, Lily's business venture had failed, and Regina's spending habits had left them deeply in debt. They were forced to sell their lavish mansion and move into a small apartment. As they struggled to adjust to their new life, they received an invitation to Ava and Julian's anniversary party. They were shocked to discover that Julian was a wealthy man and that Ava was living a life of luxury. Regina's eyes widened as she took in the opulent decorations, the fine china, and the designer clothes. She couldn't believe that Ava, the girl she had treated like dirt, was now living a life she could only dream of. As they mingled with the guests, Ethan and Lily couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. They had always believed they were superior to Ava, but now they realized that they were the ones who had been left behind. Regina, on the other hand, was consumed by anger and resentment. She couldn't believe that Ava had ended up with a wealthy husband, while she was struggling to make ends meet. As the night wore on, Ava and Julian took to the stage to give a speech. Ava looked out at the crowd, her eyes locking onto Regina and her children. She smiled sweetly, knowing that karma had finally caught up with them. Thank you all for coming tonight.